The sound of my child's voice whispering "Mommy" in the dead of night is still etched in my mind, but it was the soft blink of the doll's eye that made my blood run cold. I froze, my heart racing, as I realized I wasn't alone in the room. The darkness seemed to pulse with a malevolent life of its own, and I knew then that our lives would never be the same. The scratching started on night 3. By night 7, I stopped sleeping entirely. It all began a few weeks ago when the old lady next door gave my kid a doll. She said it was a family heirloom, passed down through generations. At first, I thought it was a kind gesture, but as soon as my child started playing with it, I noticed something off. The doll's eyes seemed to stare into my soul, and its smile appeared to hide a sinister secret. I tried to brush it off as mere paranoia, but the feeling only intensified as the days went by. My child would talk to the doll, and I could swear I heard a faint whisper in response. I started to feel like I was losing my mind. One night, as I was putting my child to bed, I heard a faint creaking sound coming from the doll's room. At first, I thought it was just the old house settling, but then I heard it again, a low, deliberate creak, like the doll was shifting its weight. I tried to convince myself it was just my imagination, but the sound sent shivers down my spine. As I turned to leave, I caught a glimpse of the doll's face out of the corner of my eye. Its eyes seemed to be watching me, and I could have sworn they blinked. Interrupt? I spun around, but the doll was still, its eyes frozen in a cold, dead stare. I told myself it was just a trick of the light, but the image haunted me. As the nights went by, the creaking sounds grew louder, and I started to feel like I was being watched all the time. I would see the doll's face in my peripheral vision, only to turn and find it sitting quietly in the corner of the room. The air in the house began to feel thick and heavy, like a malevolent presence was pressing down on us. I started to notice strange smells, too, a sweet, decaying scent that seemed to emanate from the doll itself. Interrupt. One evening, as I was cooking dinner, I heard my child's voice whispering in the next room. I turned to see the doll sitting on the couch, its eyes fixed on me with an unblinking stare. My child was nowhere to be seen, but I could hear their voice, whispering "play with me" over and over. I knew then that something was terribly wrong. It wasn't until I found the old lady's diary that the true horror began to unravel. As I flipped through the pages, I discovered that the doll had a dark history. It was said to be a vessel for a malevolent spirit, one that fed on the fear and innocence of children. The old lady had been using the doll to lure children into her clutches, and my kid was the latest target. Interrupt, but as I read on, I realized that the old lady was not the mastermind behind the doll's sinister powers. She was just a pawn in a much larger game, one that stretched back generations. The doll was the key, and my child was the latest piece in a twisted puzzle. I felt like I was racing against time to save my kid, but the more I learned, the more I realized that I was in over my head. As the nights wore on, the doll's powers grew stronger. I would find it in different rooms, its eyes always watching me. The air was thick with an evil presence, and I could feel the doll's malevolent energy seeping into my bones. I tried to destroy it, to burn it or bury it, but it always seemed to come back. Interrupt. And then, one night, I saw my child's face change. Their eyes turned black as coal, and their smile twisted into a grotesque grin. The doll was speaking through them, its voice like a rusty gate scraping against concrete. I knew then that I had lost my child, that the doll had consumed their soul. I was left alone, facing an evil that I couldn't comprehend, with no way to save my kid. I'm not sure how I escaped, or if I really did. The last thing I remember is the sound of my child's voice, whispering goodbye as the darkness closed in. When I came to, I was lying on the floor, the doll's face staring up at me. It was still, its eyes frozen in a cold, dead stare. But as I looked into its face, I could have sworn I saw a flicker of movement, a hint of a blink. Interrupt. I know that I'll never be able to go back to that house, that I'll never be able to escape the horror that lurks within its walls. The doll is still out there, waiting for its next victim, and I'm left with the haunting question, what happened to my child? The old lady next door gave my kid a doll, and it blinks. But that's not the worst of it. The doll is a vessel for a malevolent spirit, one that feeds on fear and innocence. I'm not sure what happened to my child, or if I'll ever see them again. All I know is that the doll is still out there, waiting for its next victim. And I'm left with the haunting question, what's lurking in the shadows, watching and waiting? Subscribe. I post a new story every day, and some of them are true. If you want to hear more terrifying tales, be sure to hit the notification bell and join our community of horror enthusiasts. Together, we'll delve into the darkest corners of the human experience and explore the horrors that lurk within.